Hello. Jeffrey Baffo here, HumbleBumble Chess Services. April 26th, Sunday, another chess video. Having a little struggle with the technology here. I uploaded a part 3. I mistakenly put it to my story, which only uploads 26 seconds of it. I tried to get it to the main news feed, but it doesn't look like it uploaded, so it may happen later today. I'm going to go ahead and do part 4 and upload that. So what the subject of this video series is the game of chess, and this is directed at the person who is interested in going to an actual physical chess tournament and competing there. What to expect and what that's going to be like for you, and how to make it maybe a little smoother and better experience for you. So I'm going to cover some of the things I covered in part 3. Again, this is likely to be a little bit of a longer video. Appreciate your patience through that. And if I'm duplicating stuff from part 3, I apologize. For some reason, it's just not uploading for me. But anyway, so you find a chess tournament on the website for your state. So your state chess association will have a website, and they will have a section that will be labeled upcoming tournaments. That's where you find the tournament that you want to go to. You're going to use criteria that are unique to yourself in terms of where do I like to play? Do I want to be close to my house? How much can I afford? And things like that. Now, in terms of the structure of a tournament, it's going to be a set number of games, and it's not like the classic thing we all learned in gym class where like single elimination or double elimination. It's going to be what's called, in most cases, a Swiss system. So in other words, the more you win, the more likely you are to play a person who also won their game. So the person who's doing well will face other people who's doing well, and so on down the road. So if you're having a bad tournament, you're going to be playing people with a similar score in the tournament. So it works to reduce the pool of perfect players to a single 1 or 2 players for the first place. It's a way of dealing with a large number of players that would be just too time consuming. Oh, I gotta yell at the cat. Get down over there. That would be too time consuming to do in a traditional single or double elimination tournament. It's called the Swiss system. So for instance, it may be a tournament where it'll say it's 5 rounds. That means you're going to play 5 games unless you request what's called a bye or you withdraw. But you could lose all 5 games. So in other words, if you lose the first game, you're not out. You lose the second game, you're not out. You're going to play all 5 games, which is fun. I mean, that's what you paid for to do, is to play chess, right? So look for SS is the abbreviation on the announcement, Swiss system. Other types of tournaments are possible, what are called round robins, where you play everybody in a group. It's usually going to be a smaller group. And then what's called the time control. The time control means how much time do you have how much time do you have to play the game. And it's with what they call a chess clock, which I will show if you don't have an idea what that is. It's basically a clock which times both sides. So you have a certain amount of time. If you exceed that time limit, you're going to lose the game on time forfeit. That's for newcomers, that's sometimes shocking that they could lose, not because of a chess related checkmate or something like that, but because they exceeded the time limit. So be prepared for that. Understand what the time limit is. It'll usually be what's called an Allegro time control, meaning the whole game has to be completed within a certain time frame. In the old days, they used to have a time control. We had to make like 40 moves or 45 moves, and then there would be a secondary time control, and sometimes even a tertiary time control. In today's day and age, that just takes too long. So more and more tournaments are going to what's called an Allegro. So in other words, you've got 90 minutes to play the whole game. There are 2 basic schools of thought on that. If you want to play fast, you can look for what's called a blitz or a rapid play. If you want more traditional, you're going to look for something that's in excess of an hour. You know yourself better than anyone. What are you comfortable if you're in a faster paced situation, or do you need more time? Now, the time control is usually going to include what's called either an increment or a delay. A delay means that the clock is set up to where, Brandon, would you go get me my clock from upstairs? It's in that silver briefcase, please. Sorry, a little bit of technical help behind the scenes. The clock is going to either delay the start of the time. So in other words, you have a bank of time that you use while it's your move and you're thinking about the position. You're spending that time, so to speak. So in a delay situation, let's say it was 60 minutes to complete the entire game. In a delay, it'll be a certain number of seconds before your time starts running. Thank you. In what's called an increment, you're going to have time added to you when you make your move. So each of those has advantages and disadvantages. You'll know more about those as you get closer to your tournament. There's plenty of videos and things that'll explain to it, but this is what a chess clock looks like. This is a Chronos clock. It's my favorite clock. And when you turn on the clock, you can see that each side has a bank of time, a group of time, 1 hour and 30 minutes. And usually it's for to play the entire game, but there may be what they call a time control where you have 40 moves. You have to make 40 moves in that time limit. And when you press, like say I'm sitting on this side of the board and I press my clock because I've made my move. Now my move's complete and it's your move. You're on the other side of the board from me and your time is running out because you're spending your time to think about your move. If you spend too much time, you're going to lose. But it's your time. So if you want to, some moves you might make very quickly, and sometimes you might have a deep think. So the clock is definitely something you're going to need to get used to. If you're a casual player and you haven't played with the clock, it's going to be a little bit of a freak out situation when you enter a tournament and you have to master the use of the clock. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with that, but get ready for that. The other thing you're going to have a tournament. You picked out a tournament from the website. You're going to have to join the United States Chess Federation or your state association. My cats are fighting, sorry. And then you're going to need to deal with what they call Touchmove, which means that if you touch a piece, you're expected to move that piece. If you touch one of your opponent's pieces, you're expected to capture that if you have a legal move. And one other thing, I apologize. I am in my luxurious kitchen/dining room, and in the background you will hear my beautiful wife continuing to work on her sewing machine and various different sewing projects that she has. Apologize for that. Anyway, so Touchmove. Sometimes a piece might be messed up for you. So in other words, it might be off center of the board. And you want to straighten it. If you want to straighten it, just say, hey, I'm straightening my pieces, or I'm adjusting, or I adjust. Or if you want to get fancy schmancy, you say j'adoube, which is French for I adjust. But the bottom line is, before you touch the piece, if you're just straightening the piece, say something. Because if you touch the piece without saying something, that's considered a touch, and you've got to move that piece. When you release the piece on the square, your move's complete. Then that move is complete, but you still have to hit your clock. So if you're touching your clocks, each side is touching your clock, your time is running out, you deal with Touchmove. Talking during the game is generally not allowed. If the clock malfunctions, you should actually test the clock before you start your game to make sure it's operating correctly. I know I've been embarrassed to find out that I forgot to add the delay or the increment or whatever. So test that out, check that out before you start your game. But talking during the game is generally not allowed. Anything that would cause noise or distract your opponent is basically a no-no. So don't sit there with one foot up on the chair crunching an apple, which I've seen at tournaments, or bringing your Five Guys burger and fries to the board and chowing down on it. Stuff like that is just inappropriate. It distracts your opponent. It distracts people around you. So you're at the board. You're being quiet. If there are necessary words you must speak to your opponent, then you may want to stop the clock. And most clocks have a pause function. So if something comes up, don't start arguing with your opponent or just start having a conversation. Stop your clock. In most cases, the appropriate action is stop your clock and call the tournament director over. Now, what is a tournament director? If you're new to chess, that's the person who's in charge of the tournament. They have authority to enforce rules, to kick you out of the tournament if that was found to be necessary. So they're the persons running the tournament. Sometimes they will play in the tournament. That's discouraged because obviously, there could be a possible conflict of interest, but sometimes the tournament director will play. There may be a appeals committee for, if the tournament director doesn't feel like it's something that he could rule on in a fair manner, especially if he's playing in a tournament. He may have a committee of 3 people that are in the tournament that will make a ruling on a situation. Those are very rare occurrences when those happen. Most tournaments go really smoothly. So Touchmove, the clock, you're going to play all your games. Don't leave if you lose your first game or two. Spectators really are, spectators can be at a tournament, but you need to be back from the board a respectful distance, and you need to keep your mouth shut. Bottom line, there's no other way to say it, is shut up. And that should actually be a protocol that you follow even in casual games. Even if it's just, you and your buddy playing, if there's somebody on outside of the game and they're making comments like, oh, you left your king in check, they're interfering in the game. That's really inappropriate. And especially in a tournament, you're not going to do that. So please, if you're a spectator, stay back, stay quiet. Okay. Touchmove. Now we talked a little bit about the rating system. In chess, the better you do, the higher your rating will be. That gives you an idea of the type of person you're playing. It also gives you a way to measure your progress. How am I getting better? There are, when you start off, you're what's called an unrated. So there's a formula, a mathematical formula, which I may do a future video about that, which has what they call a provisional rating when you're new, the first, I believe it's 20 or 25 games. And then you'll have what's called an established rating. And your rating, when you're new, your provisional rating will fluctuate kind of, I don't want to say wildly, but it'll fluctuate strongly. Whereas when have an established rating, the rating fluctuations up or down should be more gradual. Okay. Now prizes. A lot of tournaments, almost every tournament will have some sort of a prize. A lot of times it's a cash prize. The tournament director will post rules on whether or not you're going to get paid in actual cash or if they're going to send you a check. Make sure the tournament director has your address if you think you're going to win a prize, so that if they have to send a check, they're going to send the check to your address. If you're going to get paid cash, you're going to have to probably wait till all the games are finished. So if you don't want to do that, then give them your address so they can mail you the check. I'm going to tell you that chess is probably one of the most ego-threatening games out there. So in other words, people get into a lot of different competitions. They may play racquetball, maybe do competitive, marathon running or race running or road races or bicycle races or, things like that, golf, whatever. People tend to handle ups and downs in other sports better than chess. Or a different way to say that would be chess seems to get people more than other games. And when as a coach, I've had multiple parents come up to me and tell me that their child is in multiple sports and doesn't react like they react in chess in any other competition or sport they're in. Why does my child cry after they lose a chess game and they don't cry when they do badly in track and field? I don't know. I think it's because chess is such a transparent event. So in other words, everything that you need to do well is right in front of you. The truth is on the board. And there's nowhere to hide. The sun got in my eyes. The wind was too strong. It's only if you win, it's the merits of your play. If you lose, it's the demerits or the problems in your play. Another thing about chess that's different is you can play a magnificent game and in one foolish move ruin all your hard work. That is hard to take. If you build up a huge lead in tennis or ping pong or something like that, that huge lead is probably going to carry you through even if you play the last part of the game poorly. Not so much in chess. You can play magnificently and then mess up in the last move or two and just totally destroy the game and lose. So get ready for that kind of an effect. Recording the game. You're going to be asked to record your game. In the old school way, it's just pencil and paper. You're going to need to know what's called algebraic notation. That's another video for another subject for another video in the future. There are electronic devices that will allow you to kind of basically do, kind of take out and tap here and tap there. And they have to be certain types of devices that are structured to the rules, but there are electronic devices that you could use to record your game. Now, speaking of electronic devices, shut them off. If you have a phone, a tablet, a laptop, anything electronic, a Fitbit, anything, either don't bring it into the tournament area with you or shut it completely off, because up to and including forfeit could be the penalty assessed against you if your device makes any noise or distracts anybody. In the end, I think you're going to have fun. I think you're going to see an in-person or what they call over-the-board tournament is a lot more powerful. It affects you more powerfully. There's a passion. There's a strength of feelings that over-the-board tournaments have that online tournaments and other types of competitions just do not have. I think the pain, the expense, the time is all worth it. It's going to be there's just no other way to say it. It's going to be a thrilling experience for you to put your skill online in competition against other players that are doing the same thing. I think that if you play in a tournament, even if you do poorly, you'll still say, wow, that was a lot of fun. And you'll get enthusiastic about preparing for the next tournament and trying to do better. So I highly recommend the traditional in-person over-the-board tournament. I'm probably going to do a future video about online tournaments. But in the meantime, I've probably left out an important factor or two. That's why I urged you in my previous video to check out other sources. There are books about playing in your first tournament. There are websites, there are YouTube videos. Check out what they say and bump it up against what I say and see, where they match, where I missed something, where I included something that they didn't, or whatever. But do your preparation and you'll have a much better experience at your first tournament. I don't think you'll be sorry. Even if you do poorly, I think you'll have a blast. So looking forward to seeing you at a tournament in Colorado if you're one of our Colorado players. Other than that, thanks for watching the video. Have a great day.